Well, welcome back. Just want to welcome everyone to our Best Way program. And I want to make an introduction here, and I'm going to do one thing, and that is to see if, there he is.
Yes,
Peter
ready.
Petgrave. I'm going to spotlight you just for a moment. This is Peter Petgrave, and Peter Petgrave is going to take over some of my responsibilities this next week as the MC. So
Yes.
he's enjoyed watching the program last week and this week, and Chris Anderson asked him if he would offload some of my responsibilities. So I'm going to ask him to start doing that this next week.
Okay.
So just wanted you to start seeing his face and expect him to be your MC next week, God willing. I do have a few announcements here as we get started. First off, let's have an opening prayer and then I'll go through those. Dear God, we're thankful for your blessings. We're thankful for the health that you promise. Ask that you will be with Dr. Hillman tonight as she's sharing. And now I pray for each participant that you will give us success as you have promised. In your name, amen. Well, let me refresh your memory on a couple things here. And that is, I want to call your attention again to this website, southbaysda.org/best-way-1. If you go right up to the top of the southbaysda.org website, you can click Best Way, and it will bring you to this website. Many of you probably clicked here to access the Zoom meeting tonight. I want to remind you, if you have not filled out your daily scorecards, please do so. This meeting is about accountability. And the way this program works is by you participating and helping us track data. It doesn't work if you don't track data. If it isn't measured, it didn't happen. There's a Facebook group. You can click this link right here. And I know that Dr. Nita Hillman has been doing a great job with her walking twice a week. I've enjoyed her videos of that. There's also a lot of links to other useful information on the Facebook group. Also want to call your attention, if you, for whatever reason, have missed some of the previous lectures. I know we actually might have 1 or 2 new people this meeting. It's getting to the point where if you missed some of the prior meetings, probably it's a little bit too late to join now. But if you missed some of the first lessons, you could click up here under first lesson, and you can watch Dr. Hillman's smiling face about lecture number 1. Second lesson, you could watch Dr. Abraham talk about exercise. And then third lesson, after tonight, will be uploaded at this link as well. Also call your attention to this healthy cooking website. Faith's expression always cracks me up when I see it there. You can learn healthy granola, peanut butter, super salad. Rachel Detweiler, I believe, will be back tonight with another recipe that you will probably want to try sometime this week. And we'll work on getting more videos uploaded as we proceed. There's also lots of healthy recipes, minus the video, at this link, which takes you to our Dinner with the Doctor website, dwtdhickson.com. And there's a whole bunch of recipes there that you can search in alphabetical order or categories or some special features there. I won't take your time to show that right now. At this time, I think that we will proceed with our medical lecture 1 minute early, and I will turn it over to Dr. Nita Hillman for our lecture this evening. If someone could spotlight her, and we'll give the time to you, Dr. Hillman.
Thank you, guys. Let me pull up the presentation. All right, can you guys see the presentation? All right, great. Thank you. Welcome back to Best Way. I am so excited. I hope you guys are seeing a lot of the changes and the improvements that you are hoping to see. And I'm so excited to share with you today the lecture on the ultimate motivation. So let's dive in. Many of us have many different reasons for why we are motivated to lose weight. Some of us are trying to avoid diseases that we've seen in our family members or in our friends, or maybe we've already encountered some diseases that are the consequence of the increased weight that we have. Some of us are just trying to feel better at a normal weight and not be limited in the activities and exercises and the things that we want to do. Some of us recognize the influences that have caused us to make choices in our food and in our exercise that we wish had been different, and we want to be a different influence for the coming generations in our lives and in our families, with the people around us, our friends. And then there are so many other different reasons for the weight loss, but one of the highest motivations that I would really encourage you to consider is that we are not our own, that God has actually created our bodies in a way, and to be able to live and to be able to live an abundant life, and that he is going to give us help to be able to do that, and he's interested in that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means no matter where you are on your spiritual walk or your journey in the next couple of slides. Many of us have wanting to change behavior. You have heard of so many different programs: Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Weight Watchers, and I think they've changed to WW or something like that recently. There's so many different programs, and all of them ultimately are trying to help people change their behavior. I'm not going to go into this in as much detail as I would like, but when we're changing behavior, give me just one second, behavior can be changed. When we go into the behavior change, we sometimes are at the place at the beginning where we don't really think we have a problem. Everyone else tells us that we need to change our behavior, but we don't recognize it. That's in that pre-contemplative change at the stage. And then something motivates us to want to make some changes, maybe information that we got. But eventually, many of us that are in this program right now have already moved to what we call the preparation stage. You heard about the Best Weight program. You started putting some of the principles in place. Maybe even you're still in that preparation stage, sort of half in the preparation, half in the action stage. You're gaining information and you're kind of trying to figure out, how do I put this information together? And I hope that many of you quickly will move into the action stage if you have not already done so. So you've heard information about exercise, you've heard information about food. Now, moving into that action stage. Some of you are already there in the action stage. You've joined the program, you're here, you're a part of it, and you're fully engaged in it, or you're partly engaged in it. Whatever that may be, as you're learning over the next 10 weeks, you're going to get into more and more habits that will then put you into what we call the maintenance stage. You're starting to lose weight. The healthy eating, the exercise, the sleep, the water, all are starting to become a regular pattern in your life. And that's great. And that's where we want you to be. And the challenge is that in most weight loss programs, what happens is, and I've seen this over and over again over the years, is this thing called the relapse stage, right? We go back in that cycle again. And then we feel bad. Oh, wait a second, I've gained the weight back again. I've seen this with my patients who have had surgery and they're eating around the surgeries again, right? And they're just back again, cycling over again. And they're wondering, when am I ever going to get off this crazy cycle? And we try another program and we try another program. Well, here's the thing. I want you to get past that. Here at Best Way, we want you to recognize that there is something more than just spinning around the cycle, going from program to program to program. One of the things that I love to encourage my patients with over the years is that at Best Way, we firmly believe that God is in the business of setting captives free. He does not want you to stay in this cycle of weight loss and relapse, weight loss and relapse, weight loss and relapse, and that he has something to say about this. And again, if you're skeptical, I just want to share with you a little story because I really believe that sometimes it's powerful to hear other people's experiences. I met Bill in January of 2013, and Bill had given me permission back then to share this. And over the years, he had given me permission to share this testimony. And I've shared it so many different places just because I believe that his experience is something so powerful. When I met Bill in 2013, he was not that much taller than me. I think he was maybe 5'6", 5'7", but he was 300 pounds. And Bill was 300 pounds, and he was suffering severe osteoarthritis. He had diabetes. He had high blood pressure. He also had struggled in the past with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, smoking. He was on oxygen with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And he could not take more than a few steps before he would just be so short of breath. I mean, literally, we're talking about just maybe not even 100 feet that he could walk before he was just short of breath, and he had to stop. And then he would have to rest for like 2 or 3 minutes before he could keep moving on. The weight was taking a severe toll on his joints also. He was in pain constantly. It just was not good for him. And Bill came to us with an attitude that was very different than almost any other patient that I saw. I wish I could give you all of the details of that story, but I don't have the time to. And if you go back a couple of programs on the Facebook Live, you'll hear me talking a little bit about Bill's story. I think this was maybe the first or second Facebook Live that I did on the walks. But this was Bill in November of 2013. This is just 11 months apart. And Bill had lost 105 pounds. And understand, Bill never took a single weight loss supplement. Bill never did any kind of, strange, like, I don't know, crazy gymnastics or whatever. He walked. That's what he did what Best Way does, which is just walking and exercising. And in that, as he put these principles into place, there was just a huge difference. And I remember this distinctly. I was in the airport November 2013 when he texted me and he said, "Dr. Hillman, look what God has done." And Bill was a part of something called Set Free Ministries. And if you see him, his finger is pointing up, he always recognized that it was God who had given him the victory. What was different about Bill was the fact that Bill came into the program with a very different attitude. Bill did not necessarily have a life surrender to God. Bill had actually been in prison for many of the choices that he had made back long ago. And he found that God had given him freedom from alcohol. He had given him freedom from the drugs. He'd given him freedom from many of the choices that he had made before that had caused a lot of significant diseases. And 2 months prior to me meeting him, he had surrendered his cigarettes to God also. And the reason where everybody else in the program would so often see obstacles, the reason that Bill could see hope and like, okay, this is one more victory I can get, is because he recognized that God had given him victory. He had tried and tested God and found that God had given him victory in other issues in the past, and now he knew he could trust God with this issue of appetite. What is it? What are the secrets that Bill had that we're going to share with you tonight? And let me go over these one by one. The first one is that Bill understood again that he didn't gain those victories in alcohol and in the drug abuse by himself. He recognized and knew that the permanent solution where his friends went back into relapse, why he was able to maintain permanent success, was he recognized and acknowledged that he couldn't do it on his own and he needed God's help to do it. That's why he chose our program. There were tons of programs that he could have done anywhere else, but he did it. He came there because he knew that God was involved in the program, and there was something that he could hold on to that he couldn't find anywhere else. The second thing that we're going to ask you to do after you've acknowledged, look, I can't do this by myself. And many of you came to Best Way because you recognize you couldn't do it by yourself. That we're asking you to say, hey, look, God, are you there? Be above board. Be honest about where you are in this journey. Some of you don't necessarily believe in God or that there is a God. You came here for weight loss and that's it. Some of you maybe believe in God, but you don't really believe that God is necessarily concerned about your health or that he can give any help. You've tried God for some help, asked God for help before, and you just don't see it. And I'm asking you to take this time and actually make this a test. God is willing to help, even if you're skeptical. Ask him the question and just tell him, I don't know if you're out there, but I'm asking you to help. Be honest with him. And then the other thing I'm going to do is to encourage you that when you start to see yourself being able to make some changes, making those differences, start to say, okay, Lord, I don't know if this is you, God, but I'm going to give you that credit and I'm going to keep walking in this. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit more detail later. Okay. So you're honest with God. You've told him where you are in your relationship with him, whether you trust him, whether you even think that he exists. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to ask God for help. This is why that prayer component becomes so important. Why reading those encouraging verses and things that we give you in the workbook are so important. In the morning when you wake up, you're about to face a day. There are going to be a lot of challenges. Weather, right? How many of you are trying to walk and it is freezing cold outside, right? And you're wondering, how on earth am I going to get my exercise in today, right? Some of you, and I've seen it on the Facebook page, have been able to walk despite pain. Some of you have been able to walk despite the cold, and you've asked and you've reached out to God for help for that. And you found that God made ways for you to do that. Ask him for help. Don't leave that out. I love what 1 John 5:14 says. It says, now this is the confidence we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. It is God's will. How do I know that it's God's will that you have better health? He tells us, beloved, I pray that you would prosper and be in good health. He's also told us that he wants us to have life and that more abundantly. If the Creator made our bodies, he's not just going to want it to just slowly die and just get worse over time. Yes, we recognize the fact that we're not here forever, but he is also willing to give us the help to be able to maintain the very bodies that we believe here at Best Way that God has created. So ask him for help. That's that next step. Again, even if you're not sure he's out there, reach out and ask him. And I love this little phrase from one of my favorite authors. We should reach out the hand of faith, grasp the arm of infinite power. The simplest prayer. Okay, I'm not asking for fancy prayers. God doesn't need our long drawn out statements. I talk a lot. God doesn't need to hear me talk a lot. He just wants a simple prayer. And that simple prayer that is put up in faith is acceptable to heaven. And the humblest soul that looks up to Christ in faith is connected with the God of the universe. You have power that previously you may not have realized was available. And I'm telling you, time and time again, Bill found that secret. And that is why he knew that this was not going to be an obstacle, but rather that it was going to be successful, because he knew God had given him success before. Now, here is where a lot of my friends who do believe in God have stumbled. They're asking God for help, but then they're not willing to do anything about it. Or they hear the information, right? You come to the meeting after meeting and you're like, okay, tomorrow I will make a better choice about my exercise. The day after, when it gets warmer, I'll exercise. I'll just do this part, but I won't do that. Act as though you've already received God's help. And here is the powerful thing that we find. As you do that, God will connect you to that power that he has to give you, and you will find yourself being able to make decisions that you have not been able to make before. I've seen it in my life. Bill saw it in his life. Countless patients I've worked with, even those who didn't even believe in God, found that as they did this and they stepped out in faith, putting the principles into place, they were able to do things that they otherwise were unable to do. The Bible, if you ever get a chance to read it, if you've not read it before, talks about different miracles. And some of you might be thinking, it's going to be a miracle if I ever lose a single pound. Well, here's the deal. Miracles require action. In the Bible is a story told about a gentleman who died. Let me tell you, your health problems cannot be more than being dead. Okay, so you have a little bit more hope than Lazarus even did at the time. Okay, and in this story, here's something so interesting. Lazarus was dead, not just a little dead. He was very, very dead, like multiple days dead. Okay, and Jesus wants to raise him from this, bring true healing to him. And in the process of doing this, Jesus could have just very easily said, okay, I'm going to blast that stone open and Lazarus is going to come out and he's just going to be jumping and leaping and talking to you and whatever. But, Jesus does something so strange. He tells the people around there to roll that stone away. What? He tells them to roll the stone away? Can't he do it himself? I mean, this is Jesus about to work a miracle, right? But he asks them to roll the stone away. Not only that, when he calls Lazarus forward, he asks them to unbind him. Okay, I mean, really? You're going to wake the guy up and he's still bound? Why is it that Jesus does this? Whether it was Lazarus, whether it was the lame man that needed healing, no matter what it was, Jesus had the human cooperate with the divine. And as they did that, they recognized the power because it meant them exercising faith. Here's the deal. If they didn't believe him, they didn't have to roll the stone away. Does that make sense? If they did not believe that he could do what he did, they would have said, look, you roll the stone away and we don't really believe you. When you put those best way principles into place, you are saying, okay, God, I don't know if you're there, but I'm going to trust. And how I'm going to show you my trust is I'm going to act. And so that's what we're encouraging you to do. Recognize this. Without Christ, we can do nothing. Interestingly, in scripture, and I found it to be true, and I've tried and I've trusted God and I found it to be true. Without Christ, we can do nothing. Christ is a source of all power and he's the giver of all blessings, but he gives us a chance to be a part of that. And so I am just really encouraging you, whatever you are struggling with, whatever difficulty you have, trust him to give you the help that you need. I've got to quickly get through the next part. So let me give you a couple of other things. Once you step out in faith, every victory, every little decision that you're able to make, I want you to acknowledge and just say, thank you. Thank you, God. I don't know if you're there, But if you're the one giving me the success, I just want to thank you. There are multiple research studies, and I will pull them into the Facebook group in the next couple of days to show you what thankfulness does in changing our mind and our focus. When we see obstacles, we are paralyzed to change. But let me tell you something, Bill, there's just such a joy that Bill had. It was so powerful and it was contagious. It made other people, every time Bill would thank God for something, it made other people want to get out and go and walk. Okay, understand that Bill he just was so excited about it. And that's what you get a chance to do. And why does acknowledging God make such a difference? Because here's the deal. Other people are stuck, just like you and I have been stuck, not able to make the change. And in Isaiah, there's this very powerful thing that Isaiah talks about, and I believe it's Isaiah 41 or 43, and I apologize, I put the reference here and I deleted it somehow, but he talks about how God wants us to share those things so that other people would know that, that he is God. Simple and that's the simple thing. Because when someone has tried everything over and over again and they've not had success, when you acknowledge God, you give them a resource that they may have never considered to be an ally with them in making the changes that they need to. And then the next step is resisting temptation. And I know my time is a little bit over, so I'm just going to quickly finish up with this. You are going to find temptation coming, right? There are going to be reasons why you don't want to get out and exercise. There are going to be reasons why you're going to want to eat things that you shouldn't. People are going to bring food that you have been trying to keep away from. Initially at the beginning, the temptation is going to come frequently and it's going to be severe. But I love this verse in 1 Corinthians 10:13, and this is a promise that Jesus himself gives you. There is no temptation that is going to come to you that other people have not faced, but God is faithful, who is not going to suffer you to be tempted more than you are able. But this is so beautiful. Please, if you hear nothing else, hear this. With the temptation, he's going to give you a way of escape so that you can bear it. All right, no matter how hard or difficult it is, there is going to be a way of escape. So as you're sitting there wondering, okay, God, are you out there? You're asking me, this thing is coming. I don't know how to do this. I'm stressed out. It was a hard day at work. I so want to comfort eat. I'm reaching out to you. I'm asking you for help. Look for the way of escape. That way of escape may be the 5:30 Facebook Live to go and walk. That way of escape may be your table leader that you call. The way of escape is there. Look for it and act on it when he gives you that escape. Run to that door as fast as you can. And what you will find is that the more that you do this, new pathways will come in your brain. Literally, new pathways will form. You will start the triggers that will cause you to fall into the relapse previously. Now your brain is going to create new pathways where you start to build new ways, new actions when those triggers come. And so stop that cycle ahead of time. And again, believe that he's going to do that. And then keep it up. Talk to God constantly. Again, whether you know that he's there or not, talk to him constantly, acknowledge him, fill out your cards, do the steps. And what you will start to do is that God will show you, because he loves to show you, that he is there to be able to help you as you're doing this. I just want to encourage you again, this is possible. This is not impossible. And remember that I would encourage you, and why we do this, why we make God such an integral part of this, is we recognize that God has given us the gift of our bodies, and we want you to experience it in the fullness that it will be. And my time is way up. So I'm just going to let you know that next week, we're going to talk about fats and their impact on the heart. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what that's going to do to the way that you and I eat. So thank you again so much, and be successful. Reach out and ask for help this week, not only to your table leader, but also to the God that your table leaders know has given them success and will give you success too.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nita. That was inspiring. I'm sure if we could hear all of you, we'd give Nita a rousing appreciation for that. I do have one question for you before we go on. I know this is a challenge in many programs, and I'm 100% sure somebody in this program is struggling with this idea. Dr. Hillman, what do you do when you are trying to make some changes, but other family members that you're living with are not quite as excited about change in diet or family schedules for exercise and things of that nature. How is it that you approach that?
Okay, great. I'm going to give you just a couple of quick key points that I found. And actually, one of our members here actually asked that question while we were, or mentioned that challenge while we were doing the walk. And so to answer that question, first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is tell you what not to do. Okay, don't drag and beat everybody around your house into trying to make the same changes that you do. So what's going to end up happening if you do that is that you will start to get frustrated and discouraged very easily. Remember, this is a choice that you made. You had to come to a place where you were willing to make those choices. So make it your choice and your decision. And then I would encourage you to also pray for others. Just pray that God would help lessen the pressure that is there. And he will do that in different ways. But then some of the other practical things to do. One is plan. This is one place where meal planning, for example, like in the nutrition component, is actually very helpful. If you know you're going to have to cook, especially for those who have to cook 2 different meals, trying to cook 2 different meals on the same day is going to be very challenging to do. But if you prep ahead, it doesn't matter whose meal you decide to prep ahead the family's meal or prep ahead your meal ahead of time so that one is a little bit easier to do it. My recommendation, prep ahead your meal so that you are sure and guarantee that you're going to get the meal that you need that is healthy for you, okay? Prep those, and when I mean prep is to put some easy things, whether this is cooking rice ahead of time and freezing it, whether it's cooking quinoa, grains, whatever it may be, beans, whatever it may be, just give yourself some things that you can easily, quickly go to while you're prepping everybody else's meal so that you just have to heat up your own meal. And the second thing that I would encourage you to do is to, sorry, it was just there in my head, prep the meal. Okay, well, one other thing that would help is if you have space at all. I had a patient who actually created a pantry space for herself so that she wouldn't, one little drawer, one cupboard, whatever that was just for herself, so that she wouldn't have to look at the other tempting food that is around, in the sense that that was where she went to, so that, whether if she had, food or apple or fruit or whatever it was, she had one area to go to. The rest of the family had their place, their places to keep their things. So it's good if you can have a little bit of separation there in the things that are really tempting to you, obviously understand that there may be only one freezer in the house, then keep your food above at eye level and everybody else's tempting food down at the bottom. So you don't even have to look at it if you don't have to. Whatever you can, create your little space where these are your things that you can go to. And the other thing, the third point, again, these are among many points, is find other people that are making the types of choices that you're making. This is with any behavior change that you have. And that's part of why you're here at Best Way. Why do we do it in groups? You want to be with other people that are making the same choices that you are to encourage you. And in fact, the person who had asked this question has been in other programs with us. And that's part of, I think, what is encouraging her to keep making the choices that she's making. So stay connected with us at Best Way with the other programs that we've got going on. And then on the Facebook page, however it may be, stay in contact. We want to stay in contact with you. And when you know that somebody else is helping you along the way, you know that you're not doing it alone. It gives you a little bit of encouragement to keep doing what you need to do.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hillman. Appreciate that. At this point, I'm going to spotlight Dr. Laura Lucas, and we'll look forward to our exercise segment.
There we go. I got myself unmuted finally. All right. Well, tonight, last time we talked some about burst training, and tonight we are going to review those principles in case they went a little fast for you last time, and we're going to add to them just a smidgen so that for those who are doing well with the burst training, they can progress, and for those who are just now learning about it, they'll know what comes next. So, yeah. Our burst training the goal is to perform some aerobic exercise. That's cardiovascular exercise where your heart rate is getting up, your breathing rate will be getting up, and you will be able to talk less and less as you are exercising in this cardiovascular or aerobic exercise. What we can do is we can change a variable. Now, one of the variables is the length of the burst. So I said last week that you could start with 20 to 30 seconds of burst training where you're out walking, you've done your warm up, and once you've been exercising for 3 to 5 minutes for a good warm up to get your heart rate adjusted to what activity you're doing, Then you can add a burst of exercise that is a strong intensity of exercise for you for that 20 to 30 seconds. Well, if you started with 20 to 30 seconds and now maybe your body's adjusting to that, you can increase your burst by 2 to 5 seconds. In therapy, we oftentimes like to put things in multiples of 5, but our body doesn't know the difference between 2 seconds or 5 seconds necessarily. So feel free to adjust that to something that's doable for you. If 2 seconds more is all you can think of adding, then add that. If perhaps you're walking the same route every day and you're doing your bursts at a specific segment in that route, perhaps you can give yourself a goal of going just to the next mailbox down the street. Perhaps mailboxes are too fast and you want to choose, or too long and few and far between on your street, and you want to choose the next tree, the next fence post, whatever it is, you can choose for you. Another variable that you can change as you are exercising, especially if it's in the same location that you exercise every day, is in Tennessee, at least, we have a lot of hills. And so I like to exercise on the end of my street, and that has a hill at one end. So when I start my burst training, I start my burst training on the flat and level. Then I'll start it going uphill another time so that I can just change that variable just a little bit. Now, what if right now, if you just started burst training last week and you are just getting into an exercise program for the very first time, maybe it's still all you can do to perform a 20-second burst. That's okay. Keep doing that 20-second burst until that becomes easy, because it will. And as that becomes easy with your continued frequency of doing this burst training, then you will be able to increase the length of your burst training. Perhaps it will be next week at this time. That's okay. Just work to increase it. Remember, the goal is to get your heart rate up. So once you have completed the burst, you want your heart rate to slow down safely. Do not complete a burst and stop exercise. That can cause a cardiovascular event, and that is not what we want for your life. So make sure when you stop your burst and you finished all 3 to 5 bursts, that you go ahead and do another 3 to 5 minutes of a cool down before you end your exercise. Now, you're working on getting your breathing up and working on breathing faster and faster. Well, sometimes when I'm doing my cardio, maybe my breathing sounds like a dog is panting and I'm gasping for air. Well, check out the intensity of what you're doing. Maybe the work you're doing is too strong for conditions. Maybe it's too hot outside, or in this condition, maybe it's too cold and your lungs are reacting violently to the cold. Maybe hydration is an issue and you aren't getting the water that you need before you exercise. Perhaps your body is telling you that you're starting to fight a sickness. It doesn't have to be COVID. It could be as simple as a common cold, or maybe you have allergies. So work with recognizing the symptoms that your body is giving you. Perhaps you've just done a week of really good breathing and all of a sudden it's getting harder to do what you used to do easily. Realize that these factors can affect what you're doing. But for those of us who are training hard and starting to get that heavy breathing, I want to teach you about pursed lip breathing, because it's a good recovery way of breathing so that you can get back to that baseline well. Think of it as birthday candle breathing. To do this, you breathe in deeply through your nose, like you're smelling a beautiful rose garden. And then when you're ready to exhale, you blow out of your mouth like you're blowing out candles. Things we don't do in this COVID situation anymore. But if you think of it as birthday candle breathing, you will start to slow your breathing as you do this. You're not trying to pant all out doing this. You're taking a deep breath through your nose and then blowing out through your mouth. Just like you're trying to blow out all the birthday candles on the cake. When you do this, it helps your body get back to a normal state of breathing more easily and readily. That completes my presentation for the evening. Do you have a question for me, Eric? Dr. Nelson? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, unmute myself there. Thank you. I appreciate that. What you're actually doing is increasing your positive end expiratory pressure by that pursed lip breathing. Increases your oxygenation. We do it in the ICU all the time. Well, I wanted to share my screen with you here. We're looking forward to Chris Anderson sharing with us something about of a spiritual nature, but I just wanted you to see what burst training looks like for Chris Anderson there. So anyway, Chris, the time is yours.
Thank you, Eric. We had a great time backpacking this weekend, and it probably has a little bit to do what I want to talk with you about this evening. Some years ago, I worked for a dock builder here in Chattanooga, and we built boat docks on the Tennessee River. As we grow older, we don't necessarily grow out of our childish ways, if you know what I mean. And so on the really hot summer days, we found ways to cool off while working. Actually, I think this happened during lunchtime. What we did on one particular summer day is we took the crane that we would use to lift up heavy beams and the pilings that we would drive into the lake bed, and we raised it all the way up, all 40 feet into the air. And then we would take turns and we would hold on to the bottom of the cable that's got the big ball and the hook on the bottom. We would hold on to that, and they would pick us up and up and up and up until we reached the height of the crane, 40 feet above the water. And then we would let go, and then you'd fall down, you'd fly down, and you would want to go in a certain way. The way I would go in is I would let my feet hit flat, so it would disperse the tension on the water. And then I would go under the water. And as soon as I went under the water, I would open my hands to kind of help slow me down. Well, this summer day, we were back in a lagoon building a dock, and it wasn't very deep. It was about 8 feet deep. So there wasn't a lot of depth there. And so I went first. I went off, dropped in. And when I hit the water, instead of just putting my hands out, I curled up into a ball after I hit the water with my feet, and I curled up into a ball. And as I did, I came to the bottom of the lake, and I just brushed the very bottom of the lake with my backside. So fortunately, in the lagoon, it's a lot of sediment that comes down, and it's really, really soft. There was no rocks there or anything. So I swam to the top, and I got out, and there was a new guy with us, Rod. Now, Rod had never done this before. This was his very first time. And I explained to him, what you need to do, Rod, is it's not deep. So when you go into the water, you cannot go in like a pencil. Boom. You must curl up in a ball so that you don't hit the bottom of the lake. Oh yeah, Chris, I got this. No problem. No problem. I have jumped into the lake all my life since I've been young. I got this. Okay, fine, sure. Up, we raised him up and up. And he didn't get all the way up before he decided he was going to let go. I guess he wasn't ready for the 40 foot. He must have been around 30 feet or so. He let go of the cable and plummeted towards the lake. And he went in like a pencil. So we were there waiting and waiting and waiting, wondering where Rod was. And I was starting to get concerned, like, where is Rod? I'll finish my story in just a minute. So in the scriptures, there is a powerful principle that we've been talking about every week. It's in 3 John verse 2. It says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers." So it is true that you are more than just a body, right? That's why we have this spiritual health component in Best Way, because we believe that God wants to help you. God is your source of power and strength. Now, there's another verse I want to share with you this evening. This is from the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 2. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall." Do you count it joy when you fall? All right, I'm going to keep reading. "Count it joy when you fall into different trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." So James is saying that when you go through difficult experiences, that God is not wasting that. In fact, he's using that to develop something in you that is good. And it continues, "But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect, complete, lacking nothing." So trials aren't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, trials can be a good thing in our experience. Let me share it this way. One of my daughters has chickens, Johanna. She absolutely loves her little chickens. We don't eat the chickens. We don't eat the eggs. We just enjoy having chickens. They're fun to watch. They eat the bugs in our yard and keep ticks away. They're kind of nice like that. But periodically, the hen will begin sitting on the eggs, and then the little egg will hatch. Now, it's very important that Johanna not help the chick hatch itself out of the egg. On the 21st day, the chick inside of there will use its egg tooth and begin to poke a little hole through the egg shell. And then it pokes a circle and it sticks its head out of the shell and it struggles to get out. And eventually it uses its feet and it pushes its shoulders and wings through the shell and it gets out of the shell. Now, all that is very important. If you were to help that chicken out thinking it doesn't need to struggle, you would be wrong, because that struggling process is critical. That struggling process helps its legs get strong. It allows the little arteries that run inside the eggshell to seal off. Were you to break one of those arteries on the eggshell too soon, the chicken would bleed to death. Were you to help it so it didn't use its legs getting out, its legs would not form correctly. They would be weak, and the chicken would have improper, I don't know what you call it, pelvic function, and it walks spraddle-legged. And so you would actually hinder the chicken. The struggle process is an important part of a chicken's experience. Now, Dr. Hillman shared a really powerful scripture this evening. It said in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, it says that there is no temptation that's taken you, such as common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape that you may be able to bear it. So while we go through difficult experiences, God will not allow us to go through an experience, excuse me, that is more difficult than he can help us through. God is our source of strength and power. In fact, I shared a scripture with you last week in Psalms 46, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. So, struggling. I don't know if any of you have struggled since you started Best Way. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm guessing that there's been times when you're like, man, today did not go how I wanted. I know they taught us 7 principles that we need to follow, and I didn't get any today. You might have found yourself struggling a little bit. I want to share a text with you in Proverbs 24, verse 16. It says, for the righteous falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in times of calamity. The difference between the righteous and the wicked in this text is that the righteous get up every time they stumble and fall. Why is that? Well, because God is their help in time of trouble. I'm going to share my screen with you and just show you a few seconds of a lady doing something called the triple Salchow. Oops, not that screen, this screen. Okay, trusting you can see my screen. She's practicing here. She's practicing. Keep watching. Watch this. Watch it. Watch it. Oh, she fell down. She looks a little discouraged. Okay, watch her. Watch her. She's going for it. Keep watching. Here she goes. She fell down. The only way people actually can become good at the triple Salchow is by trying again and again and again. And they fall and they try again and they fall and they try again. And eventually they get it. It becomes a habit in their life and they nail it. That falling experience is not wasted in their life because the getting back up again is important. And it's the same with each of us. Now, Rod had gone up to the top of the crane. He had released his hands and he had fallen like a pencil into the lake bottom. What Rod knew that we didn't is that he was stuck in the bottom of the lake. His feet went down into that soft, silty mud, and his feet were stuck down in the mud. He couldn't get out. He could see the surface. He could see the top where the air was, but he couldn't get out. And he was struggling and struggling and struggling to get out. And eventually he got out about the time we were ready to jump in, but he left his boot stuck down in the mud. We went down and tried to find his boot. We could never find his boot, but there was something important. Rod wanted to get out, right? I mean, he wanted oxygen. He wanted out of the mud. God has an experience for you that's better than being stuck in the mud. Like he wants you to be healthy. He wants you to enjoy life, to be able to take deep breaths of oxygen. He wants you to prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And so God has great plans for you. But the only way you'll get there is if you actually want it. God is offering it. He says, I will help you. I will be a help, a present help in time of trouble. But we have to want it. So listen, don't get discouraged as you go forward this next week. If you fall, if you get off the schedule for a day or things don't go quite as you had planned, get back up. God will be your present help in time of trouble.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And I especially appreciated when you were talking about how men don't really grow up. They just repeat their boyish things at higher and higher heights. I would just enjoyed Faith's expression. It just made the story perfect. At this time, if you could find Rachel Detweiler and spotlight her, we're going to have another practical cooking segment here. So Rachel Detweiler, time is yours.
I was just thinking about what Pastor Chris said and thinking of my own experience with cooking and how many times I had to try things and new things, and because I haven't always eaten plant-based, and so it was a lot of trial and error with me trying to figure out how to do some of these things. These recipes, I'm going to share 2 with you tonight because they're so simple. I felt almost embarrassed just sharing one. They're so simple, but they're amazing recipes. And you may look at me and be like, what in the world are you thinking, Rachel? But I want to share this with you because this is something my family enjoys almost on a weekly basis. So how many of you like sweet potatoes? Sweet potato pie, candied yams. Yeah, they're just fabulous in that way, eating that way. But we're not going to do them that way this time. We're going to do something a little different because sweet potatoes are more than just used in sweets. And so they're actually really, really good for you. They're really high in fiber and low in calories. They have a lot of vitamin A and potassium in them. And so I'm going to show you here 3 simple ingredients: a sweet potato, black beans, and an avocado. Now, most people would look at this and be like, okay, like we've done baked potato bars with regular potatoes, but sweet potatoes take it to a whole nother level. So for this recipe, it's really simple. All you want to do is take your sweet potato and you're going to bake it anytime. You can bake it anytime, throw it in the refrigerator. A lot of times I'll bake my sweet potatoes when I'm baking something else, and I'll have one ready for whenever we want to eat them. But just bake it at 350 or whenever for about an hour. Sometimes I bake it at 400. It just depends. The temperature can vary depending on your sweet potato even. You just want it to be soft to the touch, and it doesn't really get any harder than that. The black beans I used here, this is convenience sake. I like to cook my own beans from scratch, but this is simple. You can buy it at Walmart. You have your beans ready. You have your sweet potato ready. And you could also buy packaged guacamole if you don't want to cut up an avocado or wait for it to ripen. A lot of avocado mash that you find on the market now doesn't have anything added to it. So you can use that as simply if you'd like. This one happened to be in my refrigerator, and once they ripen, they can keep in the refrigerator for about anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So again, very simple. So that's all you have to do is bake this sweet potato. You can add whatever you like to the beans. Most of the time, we don't even add anything to it, but you could add cumin, coriander, chili powder. You could even throw salsa together with your beans, and then just throw it all on top of your sweet potato with some avocado diced. And you might want to add a little bit of salt to the avocado if you like, or make it guacamole, add some onion powder and some lemon juice. And there's so many ways that you can vary this up. And this, again, is so simple, but it is amazingly delicious. My children even ask me for it every week, which is kind of crazy, but since we rotate recipes so much. But again, just give it a shot and let me know what you think. I was amazed the first time I tried it. I was like, really, a sweet potato? And it's fantastic. So give that a shot. The next recipe I have for you is another very simple recipe. It calls for, again, 3 ingredients. You'll see 4 there because I'm showing you different ways you can do this. So this is a pear and applesauce bake. And you can choose to use a fresh pear if you'd like. I bought pear halves in fruit juice concentrate, or you can even buy the little tiny containers of pears if you want to make this just for one person. You can also get little tiny applesauce, single serving applesauce to go with it instead of the giant jar of applesauce I have here. This again is very simple. All you need to do is cut up your pears, or if they're already diced like the ones in the middle, you just drain the juice out of them and throw them in a pan and add your applesauce and mix it up. And then you can add any kind of granola you like. Hopefully some of you have gotten a chance to try Faith's fabulous granola recipe. You can throw that on top of this. I happened to find some at Walmart that had no sugar added. It's done with date paste, I believe. And just something very simple that you can throw. And by the way, my husband tried to eat the entire box of the granola. He liked it so much. So you don't want to do that though. So anyway, after you put all this together, you just top it with your granola. And you're going to put it in the oven to warm it for about 15 minutes at 350. Or you can just eat it as is, and it's delicious that way too. During these cold months, it's nice to eat something warm once in a while. So this makes a wonderful light dinner. And you can make it, for breakfast too, if you'd like. It works really great that way. So those are the 2 recipes I have for you. I hope that they're simple enough. There's what they look like. I made one that small dish is just a single serving or 2 servings. And I used a 8x8 for the other to use most of that jar of applesauce. And so give these a shot, see what you think. Again, healthy and easy, very easy to do. If you have any questions for me, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate it. And those certainly do look delicious. And for this time of year, I think it's a great thing. I have a few announcements before we break up into our groups as we're finishing, finishing this evening. Let's see. Let me pull up these announcements. The first one is the walk times and locations for this week. I am told that on Thursday at 10:30 a.m., the Holsey Wellness Center walking track in Collegedale is where Dr. Hillman will be meeting you. And of course, you can watch her updates on that Facebook page. And on Monday at 5 p.m., the Gilbert Stevenson Park walking track in Fort Oglethorpe is where the walking will happen. So again, you can contact Dr. Hillman on the Facebook page if you have any questions about that.
Sorry, that's 5:30 p.m. on Monday.
5:30 p.m. on Monday. My apologies, but get there at 5 a.m. and you can get an extra point on your card there. I do want to make one particular announcement here because I think it was Dr. Hillman mentioned some of the other programs that we have available. Let me share my screen again here. I showed you this website already, dwtdhickson.com. Dinner with the Doctor is what DWTD stands for. And there will be a link. My wife keeps up this beautiful website. About halfway down the page, join online. So this is obviously out of date. We meet the 3rd Monday of every month, and that is this next Monday, which is before our Best Way program. So I need to remind you of that. This next Monday at 6 to 7 p.m., Dr. Markham is actually a cardiologist, and he's going to be speaking about heart failure and lifestyle contributors to that. He has a long experience with lifestyle medicine. He actually had a television program for a while that still airs on some of the local channels. They air some reruns of that. Let's see. Remind you about the Healthy Cooking School. Again, you go to the website, southbaysda.org/best-way-1. It has all the links there for everything that you need.
Well, that concludes our program this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the material and the presentations that have been shared. Hope you learned something new, and you can implement it in your life somehow this coming week. Next week, our presentation will begin at 7 p.m. Looking forward to see you then. Have a great week. God bless.